welcome to another episode of Silver Linings Talk Show. We have with us today Jacquelyn Santiago Nazario, who is the CEO of Compass Youth Collaborative. And she is a servant leader with us today to talk with us about everything that she's been up to. Jacquelyn, thank you for joining us. And I'd love to hear more about what a servant leader is and what influenced you to step up and be a servant leader.
Yes, thank you so much for having me here today. It's really an honor to be able to talk about my work and especially to share it with you today. I call myself a servant leader, and I learned that from my family, but I call myself a servant leader because it is an honor to be able to work with people in a humble way, to not put title over humanity. And so for me, that is the most important thing, that I look at the humanity and the love of everyone and not necessarily a title or what they can bring, just pure love and connection.
Yeah, I think you brought a photo. You gave us a photo to show
Yes.
of you as a child, and I'd love to show that.
Yes.
And just talk a little bit more about how you were influenced in this way. Look at you.
Yeah. So this brings back so many memories, but my parents are really the reason why I'm a servant leader. My home was always open to anyone to come through. It was family from Puerto Rico coming in to get a better life and get on their feet. It was community members who needed sugar or a hug or conversation. It felt like my house was a community center where people just felt drawn to come there and feel better. And I joke because my mom has a pot, it's like this big. I mean, you could fit a toddler in it possibly. And it goes on the stove and almost takes up all 4 burners. But there's 2 people in the house, right? My mom and my dad. But she always had that pot full of food there. It's usually rice, and and no matter who comes through the door, she's giving them food and giving them love and giving them prayer and hugs. And they always taught me to offer what I had, even if it wasn't a lot. They also taught me to engage with anyone. So they would tell me, talk to the custodians, talk to the lunch ladies, speak to the sanitation workers, always treat everyone the same way. And they would always remind me, from humble beginnings, you are doing great now, but you don't know tomorrow, And so life has a funny way of being a reciprocal in that way. And so when you give people love, they're inspired to love forward.
I love that. So it's really kind of a lifestyle.
It is.
I mean, it's your roots.
It is.
It's your roots.
And I think what a blessing.
Yeah.
What a blessing that you received, having such, gorgeous messages, honestly, about humanity that have really impacted you throughout your life.
Right.
And now being a servant leader, and you'll talk about more about what you do, but you are in Hartford. And I'm curious, what drew you to Hartford?
I came to Hartford quite by accident. I had no intention of ever coming to Hartford. When I applied to college, I applied to all schools in Massachusetts because I was so close to family. And I want to just say that my family always wanted better for me. They just didn't always know how. Mm-hmm. And so with that, I'll say that I always felt like I was the glue, the person bringing everyone together through struggle. And so I applied only in Massachusetts. My guidance counselor said, one school, try this school, Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. And I did. And it was through a situation that I had with my father, a big fight. He was unfortunately impacted by alcoholism, and we had some domestic abuse in our home, a lot of trauma. Mm-hmm. And I said, if I stay here, I won't survive. And I said, I haven't been to Trinity, I haven't been to Hartford, I don't know what it's like, but that's where I'm going. Mm-hmm. Because that's where I was accepted, I'm gonna go there. And so I went to Hartford, and immediately went to Trinity College and realized it was way different than any world that I had been in before. And it was, very affluent. I said, actually, I think I said, it was like stepping into a J. Crew catalog. And I didn't know what that was like. It was just
I imagine preppy.
Very preppy, very isolated, very not diverse. And so in that moment, I said, I need to find community. I need to find people that look like me. I want to look to see what's out there. And I went outside of those huge gates and started finding Aquí Me Quedo. There's a restaurant there that's food, and I was like, oh, there's people that speak Spanish here. There's people there's a whole world out here, and it was a diverse one that I really loved. And so I decided at that point that I would volunteer and do some internships right off the bat. And the community drew me in. Nice. Seeing the love and bringing that back into Trinity College was really exciting for me as well. So when I graduated, I immediately went to work for South End Night Riders Youth Center, and Hartford areas rallied together and fell in love with the community. It kept me here.
Wow. Yeah.
Great story.
So you're never on an island.
No.
You can always find connections, and I love that.
Absolutely. And I found some great connections within Trinity, outside of Trinity. There's not a place that I don't feel like I can go to now. I've learned to navigate different communities, have the right words, and honestly, being a servant leader gives me some of those pieces, because when you lead with love, so many doors open up. And when you're really interested in building relationship, it's key to, making everything better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, Jackie, I'm very curious about your current roles in Hartford, the CEO and commissioner in Hartford. Can you expand upon that a little and tell us about that?
Yeah, so I'll start with the commissioner. I'm on the Commission for Human Relations in Hartford, in the City of Hartford, and it's an honor to be there. It's really about creating understanding and awareness about diversity and inclusion, also civil rights protections. And so, we meet under this commission. There are also the Women and Children. There's also the Commission for LGBTQIA+. There's also the Police Civilian Review Board that is under there. And through those pieces, we make sure that there is equity and support and understanding for the residents of Hartford. And so it's an honor to be able to do that at that level with other committed residents of the City of Hartford.
Because you said this is a volunteer position.
It is a volunteer position, so I'm not paid for it. It's just, again, another one of those servant leadership things, an opportunity for me to share the resources and opportunities that I've had with others.
Awesome.
Yes, and as the CEO of Compass, I'm really proud of that. And I want to say that I didn't initially think that I would be CEO. I rather be in the background many times. And so for me, it's great to uplift people and put them in the front. And so being on stage is really something new for me. But as the CEO, I decided to take that role because it is an opportunity for me to use my lived experience to influence at a different level. And there are very few Latinas that you see in this role, in a leadership role in the community. And so I wanted to be able to open doors for others that look like me, but also to educate people on both sides and bridge the gaps of understanding. And with Compass Youth Collaborative, I get to work with the most amazing people. I call them heroes because they have literally transformed their lives. Everyone that I worked with has a beautiful story to share. And what they do is they reach out into the most vulnerable communities, those youth that are either drivers or victims of violence. And they go anywhere, no matter what crime has happened, what vulnerabilities they're facing, what poverty they're facing. And they reach into those communities and they lift kids out. They build relationship and trust with them, and give them tools so that they can change their behavior over time, and allow them to think about their actions before acting. You know, think about things before they make decisions. And so we have these peace builders reaching out to these kids so that they can make better choices and then connect them to education and employment and other opportunities in life so that they can be successful.
I mean, that's huge because you are not only communicating, you know, in your volunteer role, but you're also doing so much in your CEO role. In that, what needs are you seeing that, you know, when you're out there, you know, educating on diversity and inclusion issues, and also too putting into place these heroes who are reaching out? What are you needing? There must be a long list for sure.
There's a huge list, and in both of them I would say that because I have this lens, I see a lot of trauma. You know, when you think about a population like Hartford, we have over 23% poverty rate, when in the state of Connecticut, it's a little over 9%. So when you put that into context, poverty means that you have lack of access to many things, such as the basics, food, shelter, clothing, and that adds to anxiety. It adds to, you know, depression, anxiety, like all of those different things. And you feel like you're in a survival mode of sorts. Rather than, you know, thriving, you're surviving your day to day. And so I see a lot of need in that area. Psychological safety, you know, love, belonging, basic needs. But all of the residents in Hartford, I feel, are powerful people and beautiful people that just haven't had access to resources and opportunities, and education has been limited for them as well. So,
now you talked a little bit about briefly some of the needs. And you guys also provide so many services to kind of help with those needs. Can you just briefly, because there is so much that you know, Compass Youth Collaborative does that I think people need to know about, and hence why we're so excited that you're here, because you have so much to share, is what services are you guys providing to those in Hartford?
So I'm going to break it down a little bit simply because I think there is just so much that we do. But in the first component, I would say that we respond to incidences of violence in the community. So no matter whether it's 2 a.m. or 2 p.m., if we get a call that a youth has been injured by gun violence, we're responding to the hospital. We're deploying a team to the hospital. They get there, they meet with the nursing team, the doctors, to be able to meet this patient bedside. The purpose of that is that we call it the golden hour, meaning that at that time is when they're most vulnerable. They're most upset. They may be thinking about retaliation. They don't know how to advocate for themselves. They may not have a caring adult that can help them. And so we show up to be that caring adult, to be able to provide those services to them at that time when they need it the most, but also providing resources to the family. We also have another team that will go out into community and talk to community members to make sure that there's no instances of retaliation. You know, we say that hurt people, and we want to be those people that influence others to love people so that they can continue loving people. And so, because healed people will heal people eventually, but it does take time. We also, during times of peace, are canvassing communities and just showing them we're here to help you. If you see us out there, we have these bright orange shirts. They are for Stop the Violence. It's actually a color that was designated to this initiative or this effort because it's the color that hunters wear to state, "Don't shoot me." And so, so we have those. We're out in community. We're peace ambassadors during times of peace. We also have education coordinators, so we're providing education services and getting them back into school, or we're providing them a safe opportunity to learn employment skills in-house so that they can fail and try again, without consequence of feeling like they're going to be kicked out of the program and not have other resources. And the most important component, I would say, is that we have social workers who are on our team to be able to address the trauma and have them examine the relationship between their thoughts, their emotions, and their behavior so they can regulate their behavior over time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I just
Wow, this
say,
is amazing. I love hearing all of this, Jackie. I have another question. You've talked about it a little bit, but the model that you're using, is it being replicated anywhere else? Hospitals, courtrooms, the school system? Are you
So it's
replicating?
starting to be a movement nationwide, and so there are opportunities. There are people that are implementing pieces of it. I think that we have a unique model in Hartford. Compass Youth Collaborative, in particular, has the hospital violence intervention program as well as the street outreach component built into the program. But most of the time, it's one or the other. And because it has been so successful, President Biden just established the first federal office for gun violence prevention in the White House. So there are efforts that are in play to create the opportunity nationwide.
I appreciate you sharing that because I think awareness is key when we talk about these things, and knowing that these programs exist, because just like you said, hurt people, and who hasn't been hurt before and felt like they want to retaliate? And if you think about that and know that the people without resources, how would you feel? That's amazing. So obviously, this program can't run without funding. So how do you get the funding? Where does it come from?
So most of the funding, myself, that's part of my major role.
Obviously, you need to earn a living a little bit, but it has to cost to put these people through these programs, and
Absolutely.
I'm sure you have a lot of volunteers, but
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting about the volunteers. We'll get back to that. But to the funding opportunity, the funding opportunities, that's part of my major role. I also have another team member who works in development in order to help us advance funding. And our major funders are, DALIO, Connecticut Opportunity Project, has been an amazing funder who recognizes the opportunity to fund organizations without limiting them just to programs. So they gave us technical assistance and support so that we could grow out our model and over a few years of funding. Hartford Foundation for Public Giving as well. City of Hartford is an investor. We have some state funding. Senator Murphy and Senator Blumenthal are like amazing advocates for our program. They've seen it live, and so they provide us with opportunities. Bank of America, Nellie Mae Foundation. There's a lot of individual organizations, but there's also private donors. We do a lot of individual giving, and we're I always encourage people that if they feel touched by our mission to donate to the organization, because it is important to me to build the funds not only to support the youth that are in the program, but also to support the team members that are doing this life-saving work. When I started this work and I was CEO, we were literally paying our team members $28,000 to $35,000. That was the range, right? That's barely a living wage. And there have been times when they're in communities and hitting the ground because there's been gunshots fired into community. They're risking their lives. They're getting up out of their beds at 2 a.m. to make sure that someone feels loved and cared for in community. So I think it's only fair that they get paid for this work, because it's too tough to just do it for free. And I love doing stuff for free. There's stuff that I do in community just because I know I have the opportunity and resource to. But I think it's really important that you get the consistency that is needed from someone who, especially for this dangerous work.
One thing that we learned from you that we definitely loved is that this program is free for the individuals that are in your program.
Absolutely, they pay absolutely nothing.
Which is so important for them to know because, again, poverty, 29%.
Yeah.
Is a lot of people would not be able to access what you provide. And it's wonderful that through all the funds and donations and grants and everything that you've been able to provide a platform of so many services for free. And I think you said it was about 11,000 per individual that goes through your program, which is amazing.
It's nothing compared to the cost when you think about someone that's been injured by gun violence. It's millions. Or if you think about the cost of incarceration per year, it's $60,000, you know, in the state. So $11,000 to change somebody's life, to make them feel empowered, to make them feel like they're worthy and contributing members of society. It's a deal.
And I have to piggyback that comment you just said, because we had talked previously and we need to highlight this. You talked about a story of a young woman in the program who, and this correlates with you going to Trinity.
Yeah.
Can you tell that story? Because this is also the impact that you are having by your own experience and sharing your story. Can you just share that?
Yeah, so we have programs in schools, and I think youth are in the community. They see Trinity College, but they never felt like they were a part of it. Partly because there are huge metal gates, kind of saying "Don't come in here," kind of thing, right? And Trinity's come a long way since then. Yes. But the kids said, "Oh, I could never go there. I could never go there." And I said, "Why not?" I said, "People like us don't go there."
And they point to their skin.
They point to their skin. And I said, "Well, I went there." And they were like, "No, sir, miss." I said, what do you think? I'm not smart enough or something? And they're like, "No, it's just, people like us don't go there." And I said, "Well, you're wrong, because I went there and I graduated from there. And if I did it, you can do it too." And to take that story a little further, I now have an employee who is a peace builder, amazing peace builder with amazing lived experience. And he said, "I always used to look at Trinity and sneak in to go sledding down the hills during snowstorms." And I helped him write his recommendation letter and submitted a reference for him to get into school there. And he is now an independent student, as an older student at Trinity College. And he said, "I don't have to sneak in anymore, and it feels like, like a dream. I don't have to sneak in. I belong there." And I was
breaking
like,
down barriers.
Yes,
breaking down barriers.
Yes.
That's what it is.
It is.
It brings tears to my eyes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so powerful and so impactful what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yes. And one of the things too that you had talked about before too is the data collection that you guys have been able to gather. And can you talk a little bit about that and how that brought you also to the White House?
So one of my missions was to really bring that data piece into our organization to be able to prove the impact of our work. And so 3 years ago, we designed a system from scratch. And because I'm that servant leader, I wanted the frontline people to be the ones to influence how it was built and tell us what they needed. And so now we're able to have a mobile application where they can go in after every interaction and document the progress that kids are making. And so it is a 4-year journey. So we're collecting data and we're now in year 3 of that. But because people are beginning to see, drastic changes in the fact that the kids are not getting rearrested, the fact that kids are connecting to positive adults. We have connection to education. We're connecting to employment. They're self-regulating. I mean, there was an incident where a youth saw that there was a fight. His friends were about to get into a fight, and he looked at the situation, was about to get into the melee, and decided, "No, I'm not," and picked up his book bag and walked away, called his peace builder and said, "There's a situation, get down here." And so for us, that was such a huge win. That's reflected in the data every time we see the fact that our kids are making better decisions with self-regulation. And so that is the kind of data that we're capturing, and we're hoping to see trends over time that, you know, could impact the country with what we're doing right here in Hartford.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that measurement is important.
Yeah, and the gun violence data is what I think also brought you to the White House to be a part of that conversation, right?
Yes, yes. We actually have been making a difference in the city of Hartford. We've actually seen, and this is not just, I want to make sure that that I'm clear, we have built an ecosystem of people that are working together. And so together we've seen decreases in the number of homicides that we've seen in Hartford. So in the last year we had over 30 homicides, which is less than the number that we'd seen before, and it's slowly starting to decline. There was a period in time where we didn't see any homicides in the springtime, and it's all due to the fact that we are working together and the country is paying attention. So we were able to talk about that at the White House as well.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah.
so
That's
special.
amazing. Hey, Jackie, one last thing. You're an author. Please tell us a little bit about what becoming her means to you.
That is so amazing for me. I still, when I hear author, I can't believe it. You know, becoming her, you know, is my journey into who I am and still becoming. You know, I think every day we are becoming who we desire to be. When we reach that level, we go to the next one. And I had many challenges growing up, as I mentioned before, you know, being in a house that was impacted by domestic abuse and drugs and those kinds of things really were critical to my development. But I also faced a sexual abuse. And so I talk about how this really impacted my life, and for a time I felt like I was not worthy, like I wouldn't do anything, and really being stuck in that trauma. But I found a way. The same way that I'm teaching these young people to find a way, they're finding a way through those obstacles. And so this was my way of sharing my story, so that when people see me, they see that, yes, there's possibility. Yes, I can do other things. Yes, I can survive.
And we are down to like seconds.
Okay.
I just want to highlight an honor that you received.
Yes.
Can you just briefly tell us, and you sent a picture, can you briefly tell us just quickly about this honor?
Yes, Latinas in Power. I was selected as a community champion for all the work that I've done here in community, and it's such an honor to be able to represent for our community.
Nice.
What better way to end the show? I know that we're going to have your information up on the screen for how people can reach out to you. We are inspired by you, servant leader Jacquelyn. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
joining
much.
our show.
Thank you.
So inspirational. Thank you for being
Thank you. Thank you. Such an honor.
on. Yeah.
Thank you.